So it all comes down to this. The 19-round 2013 Formula 1 season all comes to an end here in Brazil, here at Interlagos. Everything we've worked for all season is about to come to a climax here. We are fighting for 5th in the championship with the home favourite Felipe Massa in his Ferrari. We're only 4 points behind him. We're in front of Mark Webber. We've done a brilliant job this season in recovering Williams, but here in the wet, as is so often the case here in Brazil, we're going to have to work very hard to take that off Felipe Massa. So here for the last time is the qualifying report. Nico Rosberg would be setting the early pace 1/10 quicker than fellow countryman Sebastian Vettel in Q1. Romain Grosjean only just scraped through on primes in 16th to knock out Esteban Gutierrez and Daniel Ricciardo. Q2 would see Fernando Alonso fastest as Ferrari showed great pace. Rosberg and Hamilton were second and third as all the usual candidates made it through. Nico Hülkenberg and Grosjean just missed out. But at the final race of the season, the final pole of the season went to Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes by just 0.08 of a second, in front of Sebastian Vettel and Nico Rosberg. Alonso took 4th after earlier promise, whilst home favourite Felipe Massa was 7th. So all this means that at the final Grand Prix of the season here in Interlagos, Lewis Hamilton will be on pole in front of Sebastian Vettel in the Red Bull, Nico Rosberg in his Mercedes and Fernando Alonso in the Ferrari in 4th. Mark Webber took 5th in the Red Bull in front of Kimi Raikkonen's Lotus, with Felipe Massa at his home Grand Prix taking 7th. Yusufu was 8th for Williams in front of Sergio Perez and his teammate Jenson Button in 10th. So this is it. We start 8th on the grid here for an 18-lap race around a very, very wet Interlagos. There's the man we're fighting for, or fighting with, Felipe Massa on our right-hand side. We get a pretty decent start there, horrible start for Fernando Alonso in the Ferrari, and my goodness me, I'm nervous in this last round of the season, of this fantastic season we've had. We've dived up the inside there of Raikkonen, of Webber and Massa. We're going to try and cut up the inside of Fernando Alonso as well, and we're up into 4th place. What a great start. We moved up 4 positions, past Webber, past both the Ferraris and past Kimi Raikkonen as well in the Lotus. Next up is Nico Rosberg. In front of that is Sebastian Vettel, and then in front of that is Lewis Hamilton who's leading the race. Alonso bearing down as though in a straight line. He's going to the inside, but Webber goes to the outside. Rosberg and Vettel are both very slow through this left-hand corner, and can we try and make a little bit of that? I'm not entirely sure. We're still a little bit behind. Webber's managed to get right around the outside of Alonso, and I think Felipe Massa has managed to too. He's actually got a decent start as well. He's managed to get past Raikkonen as well. Unfortunately, has lost out to us, and as it stands, we're going to take 5th in the championship here because we're beating Webber as well, which is, to be honest, I don't think actually Webber can beat us unless he wins and we come outside the points. I'm not entirely sure, but I set a setup for this, and it doesn't look as if it's working very well at the moment. Very, very skatey through these slow corners here in the middle of the lap, and Mark Webber getting actually, I think, very close, in fact, possibly even making contact with us. Fernando Alonso's managed to stay in front of his teammate Felipe Massa, but look at this. Rosberg and Vettel in front are bolting away already at such an early stage in the race. We're above our objective, which is 6th place, but that doesn't mean squat at this point in time, because we're just focusing on beating Felipe Massa. But look at the run Mark Webber's got on us, and we are so slow in a straight line, so slow in the traction zones. This setup that I did, it worked so well. No, it's obviously not quite the same one because it's a different track, but I did another setup. It worked really, really well in Austin, and it's not working here at all. Alonso's gone right around the outside of us. We've got our horrible exit there out of turn 2, but partly because I was on the curves. That never helps really, especially in the wet. But also, I think we just got absolutely nothing in the traction zones. Okay straight line speed. I mean, we're keeping up with Alonso, but the fact we're in the slipstream doesn't really work as well in the wet. But still, it's not looking brilliant. It has to be said. We're looking awful through the slow corners. As you can see now, moving on to lap 3, or the end of lap 3, Felipe Massa is now the man all over the back of us. He's managed to get past Mark Webber, and as it stands, Felipe Massa holds on to 5th in the championship. So we need to either catch up with Alonso, which, let's be honest, at this phase in time is, it's just not going to happen. There's more chance of more chance of a goat winning this Brazilian Grand Prix than me catching Fernando Alonso. So I think we're just going to have to try and focus on hoping that Felipe Massa loses out to Mark Webber and just try and hope that we don't as well. And we're in 5th place. Mark Webber is all over the back of us. He's gone right around the outside of Felipe Massa, down this second straight. He's going to the inside. He'll duck out a bit, I thought, though, and he does. And we go wide into the corner. We missed the apex. We managed to stay on the track, but all sorts of oversteer. And this is really not how I wanted to end the season. Struggling. I mean, this is possibly the worst we've struggled all season. You think back, and I mean, there's been some decent contenders throughout this season. Japan, India, just out of previous knowledge, Singapore, in fact, well, pretty much every Grand Prix we've ever driven in, we've struggled at the end, but not at the start, not like this. This is absolutely ridiculous. Alonso only passed us 4 laps ago as it stands now. He's already got the entire front straight on us, and this is a long front straight at Brazil. It's a very long front straight. We're on to lap 6 though. Well, we're about to go on to lap 6. We're now on lap 6, and Mark Webber has gone right round the outside. We managed to outbrake him, but we've outbroken ourselves. We've skated out wide. Look at the sheer lack of grip that we have. We're trying to edge around the outside of Mark Webber. Somehow we're actually managing to stay here. I don't entirely know how. Obviously there's no DRS in the wet. We've used a bit of curves. Not got much though for the start-finish straight at the end of this lap, but Webber breaks very early and we go right around the outside of him. Massa and Raikkonen. Look at the entire midfield is so compact purely because of us. We are the cork in the bottle here on this lap 6 of 18, round into Lagos here, and I must stress actually we're still going to claim 5th in the championship as it stands, but somehow I just can't see us finishing in this position based on our complete and utter lack of grip. Romain Grosjean, I think, is in there somewhere. In fact, Hulk, I can see my teammate. I can see if I can see my teammate and I haven't pitted, it's probably quite a bad race for myself. Moving on though, to the start of lap 7, Webber's doing exactly what he did on the last lap. He's gone the inside, gone round the outside of us, sorry, and we managed to slip back up the inside. We're just skating through every single corner. Romain Grosjean's had a brilliant race so far. He's actually up in 7th place, just behind Mark Webber, and then it's Massa, so we're certainly holding on to 5th in the championship as it stands. Webber's going to go to the inside of us again into this left-hand corner, being, I think, is it turn 3 or turn 4? We've gone very wide out onto the AstroTurf on the outside, and it's just not looking good. Next up, though, is Romain Grosjean to try and test and see if he can get past me. Don't know if he'll manage it. Probably will. I wouldn't have thought it'll take too much effort, although Mark Webber hasn't managed it so far. Lewis Hamilton, just out of interest, is still winning the race at the moment. And there's actually a decent battle going on for the win, of course, of this championship between Lewis Hamilton and Vettel. Lewis Hamilton did have a massive lead in the championship and decided to just chuck it away with 3 DNFs in a row. So Vettel is now in front as my phone goes off. Aya Turner, that's your fault if you're watching this, but still, we're pitting now. On to lap 9 here of this 18-lap race. We're halfway through. Going to stick on a new set of wet tyres because obviously with wet tyres the degradation is going to be very equal between both sets because there's no difference between the compounds. So we're pitting halfway through the race and we should easily make it to the end. We're going to come out, I think, in 11th place. Daniel Ricciardo is the man in front of us in 10th place. Felipe Massa also came in on that lap, interestingly. Romain Grosjean decided to stay out. Now, one thing I've experienced on this game, Lotus and McLaren are very, very good with tyre wear. So I've actually done 25% distance races before, and Lotus and McLaren haven't actually pitted at all. So that's a bit odd. I'm really hoping that doesn't happen this time, otherwise we're just completely stuffed, aren't we? If that happens again, I'm hoping not. The decent indicator is that Daniel Ricciardo hasn't pitted, and Toro Rosso aren't usually that sort of team. So let's just hope Grosjean stayed out for an extra lap and we've got the undercut on him. As you can see, though, on these new tyres, not quite as bad skating, but the oversteer is still pretty bad, still skating through the corners. It's just not a fun time. Look at it, through these slow corners, and yeah, it's going to be bad in the wet conditions, but the problem is the AI don't have this, and I think that's possibly something that they need to sort out on the next F1 game. You know, although obviously the AI are slower in wet conditions, they don't get this sort of skating and oversteer effect, and as a result of that, they're extremely quick out of the traction zones, and you just can't compete with that a lot of the time in these wet conditions. I mean, to be honest with you, we qualified 8th on the grid. Probably could have had the pace to be somewhere like 6th or, you know, possibly 5th if I was having a very good lap. So in the dry, we weren't out of a position, but in the wet, we certainly are. It begs the question, why were we so quick in qualifying in Austin if we're this slow in the race here in Brazil? I don't really know why. Maybe the setup works better there. In the meantime, Felipe Massa's just like an angry wolf all over the back of us. I haven't met many passive wolves, to be fair, so I wouldn't have said that many wolves weren't angry, but let's just say he's a very angry wolf all over the back of us. Moving on to lap 14, he's going up the inside. As an aside, I forgot to mention that people pitted. We are back up into 5th place. People like Perez and Button and Grosjean and I think Webber as well, they all came in, thankfully enough. That was I was really worrying about that. Look at the amount of oversteer we've got. Here on lap 15, we've gone horribly wide. Horribly wide. Massa's gone up the inside. We've left him space, and look at the sheer amount of traction he gets out of there. Obviously, he came in on the same lap as me, so tyre wear should be at least close. It shouldn't be quite like that, and he's breezed past us, and let's be honest, stick on some sad music. He's not going to come back, is he? He's not going to come back to us. We've got no pace whatsoever in these wet conditions. And next up is Jenson Button. I didn't even know Jenson Button was in this gaggle, but he's arrived. He's arrived on the scene, ready to sweep up the pieces that have been left behind by Felipe Massa in his home Grand Prix. It looks as if he's going to take 5th in the race, but more importantly for him, 5th in the championship. We're now moving on, though, to the penultimate lap of the race. It's all gone wrong. We've got a massive, massive snap of oversteer. Button goes through and then just closes the door on us, so that loses himself time. Probably would have made the position quite easily, but we maintain the inside line through that double apex right-hand corner, and we make it through. Felipe Massa's gone. He's up the road. We've got optimal fuels. That's not a problem. Not that I've actually experienced any difference between going lean and rich, because it just makes no difference at all. Awful amount of oversteer. Again, tyre wear is something I haven't noticed as well. It's just been piss poor on all types of tyre, to be honest. I could have stuck on slick tyres and it wouldn't have made a single difference, but still, Jenson Button all over the back of us. Mark Webber's there as well. Kimi Raikkonen, Romain Grosjean, my teammate I think is probably there as well. It's gone down the pan. We're on the final lap, and I really didn't want this series to end like this, because I love Brazil as a track, and I was so confident, especially with that wet performance in qualifying in Austin. I was really, even the fact that it was raining, I was still very confident about this Grand Prix, and it's such a shame that the series has had to end this way. We are going to take a decent 6th place, just as long as Jenson Button doesn't actually slipstream us, and I tell you what, he's right with us. Mark Webber's there as well. There's an anonymous Lotus there as well. Button in the slipstream. Is he going to try and get through? We've run out of fuel across the line. I don't actually know how, because I think I was on lean for the entire last 2 laps, and I was on optimal from the 3 laps before. That's not the point. We did just about manage to hold on to 6th, but actually by 300ths of a second, so very, very close end to the season. Lewis Hamilton wins the final Grand Prix, though, of the season in front of Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel and Nico Rosberg. Massa claims 5th, but more importantly for himself, 5th in the championship. We maintained 6th. Not a bad result in the grand scheme of things, but our lack of pace was seriously worrying there. Just in front of Button, Webber, Raikkonen and Grosjean rounding out the points. Our teammate Maldonado down in 17th place. Not a brilliant year for him, not a brilliant Grand Prix. I think 16th in the championship, which isn't brilliant. Speaking of championship, though, here it is. And Sebastian Vettel actually won the championship by 3 points over Lewis Hamilton. How close can you get? Fernando Alonso there as well in 3rd, just 21 points back. So a really good Drivers' Championship fight, actually. And if it had been real life, I think that would have gone down in the history books. As you can see, though, we take 6th in the championship. To be honest with you, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going to lie to you. 6th in the championship. It's been a really cool season, to be honest with you, trying to recover Williams. And I think we've done a decent job. We actually, as I'm about to allude to, as it comes up on the screen right about now, we actually managed to beat Lotus in the Constructors' Championship, which is one heck of an effort. Kimi Raikkonen and Romain Grosjean versus myself, not exactly the best driver in the world, and Pastor Maldonado. And we've managed to beat Lotus, and I'm very happy with that. 5th in the Constructors' Championship, 6th in the Drivers' Championship. I am really happy with that, to be honest with you. So overall, a disappointing last race of the season, but a really, really cool series and a really cool championship. And I'd just like to thank all of you for watching this series. It's been an absolute pleasure making videos for you guys. Thank you to anyone who viewed, liked, subscribed, commented, even thought about viewing. It's really the thought that counts at the end of the day. And I'd just like to thank you all for your support. I've had nothing but support. Ridiculous amounts of likes every single time, and comments, and thoughtful comments as well, that have really motivated me to carry on with this series. And I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, all of you. You're all absolute gods. So for the final time, have a good day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.